thank you for the introduction, and really great to be invited back here to Rotary. I first spoke to this group when I had been in this office for 2 months, so I'm very pleased you actually invited me back. That was August of 2014, and I didn't know a whole lot about the chamber business. It's been a very long learning curve, but I'm pleased to report that I have passed to the ranks of being somewhat knowledgeable in the chamber world. This is a great group, and I look forward very much to presenting to you today with my friend Wendy Dan Chesser. And I want to put in a plug. We do a lot together. We do a lot of dog and pony shows and joint presentations because we are seeking and attacking the same problems on either side of the river. But one event I did want to bring your attention to on December 12th, we are hosting a joint event to celebrate the completion of the bridges, and particularly the private sector's investment in making sure that those bridges came to pass. So December 12th, watch your mailbox for some information about that. I'm also relieved that Craig Sherman, is Craig Sherman here today? I'm also, now I'm dead. I'm also relieved that Craig Sherman hasn't, for the first time that I've seen him in the last 2.5 years, not asked me to join Rotary and asked me why I'm not a Rotarian. I know there's a quota there somewhere, and Craig is after that, so thank you, Craig. I'm going to start off by talking about what I believe is one of the most serious challenges facing Greater Louisville. And no, it does not involve Donald Trump. The challenge I want to address today is the growth of our region's population, and specifically our skilled and our educated workforce. I don't want to use a whole lot of statistics today, but I did want you to remember one, and it's 2%. 2% is the amount of population growth our region has endured or has enjoyed in the last 10 years. That's just 2%. To put it in perspective, that's about the workforce, the local workforce of 2 Humanities. And if we continue to grow at the rate we've grown for the past 10 years, for the next 10 years, we'll add another 28,000 people or so to our population. But that is not enough to fill half of the open jobs that we have here today. If we could, instead of growing at 0.02% a year, grow at just the average of our peer cities, 1.26%, in 10 years, we would have another 164,000 people in our community. That's a dozen, that's 12 more Humanities. And I think you got to appreciate what that effect would be on our community and our economy. And what would we do with $5 billion a year of extra economic activity? I mean, what kind of difference would that make to you and your businesses? It has to be profound. But I know it's pretty good around here already, right? We're in the middle of an $8 billion building boom. We're making all those top food city lists. Urbanism is happening all around us. The football cards are winning. Why do we need to grow our population? Well, it turns out that population growth drives everything in economic development. It takes the lid off our economic future. Businesses with a workforce, with a skilled workforce, can grow and expand. Businesses that don't reside here, that might want to locate in Greater Louisville and Indiana, can locate here because they have access to skilled workers. We get new shopping. We can justify new direct flights. Population growth means everything. Now, slow population growth might be more tolerable if everyone was making relatively more money. But you know what? That's not the case. Until recently, our median wage in this region has been on a very long 25-year slide against the national averages. And there's additional factors at play. Our workforce participation rates here in the metro area are actually pretty good, 65%, about the national average. So it's going to be very hard to squeeze a lot of additional workers out of the existing working age population. Our college attainment rates, which are necessary for those real high-paid jobs of the future we want, well, those are below the national averages. And, importantly, we are older than most of our peer cities. Our workforce is aging out at a faster rate than our peer cities. And that makes it hard to grow out of this organically. In fact, if you captured every single high school graduate we have, it would take 15 years just to fill the open jobs we have in this position and cover the retirements. These aren't good numbers, Rotarians. This conundrum will not solve itself. I think we want growth, we need growth, we want smart growth and sustainable growth, We have to take action, and that is what GLI is doing right now. Thankfully, we have a lot of smart people and dedicated people who are around to work on this problem. The mayor, Fisher, has made population growth one of his top priorities, and he's working closely with us and our foundation on this issue. Our Talent Attraction Coalition, which is a regional coalition of HR professionals of our large employers, are convened, and they're working on it. And we're finishing up the Global Action Plan, which will guide us on increasing international in-migration. You may have seen some news recently about some grants that GLI has received from the Brown Foundation and the Gaines Foundation. We've received over $1.2 million so far for this effort. These foundations recognize that skilled workforce is not just a business issue, it is a civic viability issue. And that's why GLI is making talent attraction its top economic development priority for the next 3 years. On November 30th, we'll announce GROW, G-R-O-W. That stands for Greater Global Regional Optimized Workforce. And GROW is a 3-year, $5 million talent attraction and retention plan that increases the net migration of educated 24 to 54-year-olds to our region. Our belief is that GROW will fill the gaps in that talent conundrum. It will provide us with a clear path based on data for bringing thousands of skilled workers into our area and beginning to fill the 30,000 open jobs we have here. There's 4 phases to GROW, and the first one starts next month. First is to assemble the data so that we can act efficiently. What are the experience and the educational requirements for all those 30,000 open positions in our region? Where are there concentrations of people who might fill those jobs but live elsewhere? And what are the motivators that would compel those people to pick up and move to our region to fill those jobs? Then we have to get on the radar screens. We learned from our glide trip to Austin recently that even in a city like that, a talent attraction magnet like Austin, Texas, you have to market. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll aggressively market our region and change opinions so that skilled people will give us a chance. And then we have to engage with those people, with qualified people in the targeted demographics. We need to connect them with the jobs that we have open that match their skill sets and our needs. We'll be reaching out to the best and the brightest in our region's colleges and universities and making sure when those kids graduate that they enter our workforce. And then importantly, once the newcomers take a job here, we will assimilate them into our community, the very fabric of our community. Show them some of our great Southern hospitality, teach them how to eat grits, and make sure that their friends know exactly how great it is here in Greater Louisville. You know, fortunately though, the messaging for talent attraction is almost identical to the messaging for talent retention. So much of our marketing is directed internally at those who might be at risk for leaving. Now, I recognize that growth is not universally popular, and it's not painless. To grow, we have to live with things like construction, and traffic, and dealing with people from different cultures. You know, people that do crazy things like play cricket. But the benefit of growing our skilled and educated folks here is huge. More philanthropy, stronger tax base, rising wages, more retail choices, more ethnic restaurants, more direct flights, and yes, more Rotarians. If the elections this week taught us anything, it has to be the status quo must change. In my opinion, the status quo of slow growth must change. We're in tough competition with cities like Nashville and Charlotte, competitor cities that grew 48% each in the last decade compared to our 2%. Those cities are more than happy to take our economic future and take our talented young people, and that is exactly what the status quo will lead us to. Louisville's awesome, we're on the rise, I know that, you know that, and it's high time the rest of the world learned that. Thank you very much. I'd like to turn the podium over to my dear friend Wendy Danchester from Southern Indiana, and she's going to discuss the other side of the talent coin, which is how we go about training and credentialing the existing workforce and the people who will soon enter the workforce.
Ken, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Join me again. Give Kent a round of applause. What a great thing he's done. He's got a great team, a great direction, and proud to be a colleague of his. And to the Rockin' Rotary Band, I have never had a welcome quite like that before. I am only disappointed that I can't come up here and moon dance just to sort of make it all complete. So, but thank you for that. It's very, very warm. As Kent mentioned, we're talking a little bit about talent development, and that's the hard stuff. Let's think about, though, from the economic region, some of Kent's comments are looking at us as a region. Who is it that we are? And Southern Indiana is definitely a piece of this. We are 5 counties of the Louisville MSA and about 20% of the population. We have the great distinction and advantage of being able to partner with GLI on many different pieces, such as Advanced Greater Louisville, which is to get more companies that are looking to grow or expand, have them look at our region first. Now, if they show interest in our region, we'll fight like cats and dogs to try to get them in our communities. But if they're not looking at our region, we're all going to lose out. So that the chances that we have to work together and the opportunities that we make to work together are truly what's creating this region. And we're proud to be a part of that. And as I talk about region, though, there's really no truer regional resource than workforce or talent, the people that live here. This just sort of shows some of the commuting patterns, and this is just based around Jefferson County, Kentucky, with 22,000 people leaving Jefferson County every day and 88,000 people coming to Jefferson County every day. That's within the entire region. In Clark and Floyd counties in Indiana, we have just under 20% of our workforce, those that are actually working, who cross the river every day. And their options on how they get across that river are about to expand again. So we're excited about that, and those regional resources are truly the things that are going to keep our region strong. So when it comes to workforce, who actually creates the workforce that's here? Kent talked about attraction and retention, but those of us that are from here, how did we get there? Who influenced the talent development pool that we have today? Well, if you're John Doe in the center there, you've got your pre-kindergarten education. If you don't go to kindergarten knowing which way to hold a book, you're already behind. And when are you ever going to catch up? So age 0 to 5 is very, very important. And then you have that K through 12 component. K through 12 has access to children for roughly 20% of their lives. With weekends, the time they should be sleeping, summer vacations, 20% of their time is covered by that school system. Now, that's not a lot if you think of all the influences that other education could contain. But K through 12 is very important when we talk about that. Then we have things like vocational ed, not education, not quite what it used to be in terms of getting folks to work into the workforce, but that's still important because we do have such a strong higher education system. We have incumbent worker training, so once you start your job, who's helping you figure out what skills you need to get there? And then adult education for those who are either out of work or looking for a new career. All of those influence what the talent that's available, or we're going to call that the supply side of the equation. That is the supply of talent and workers. Because we also know that there's that demand side. Those of you who are employers or looking to fill positions, that's the demand side that we're trying to understand a little bit better. And when Southern Indiana has decided in this calendar year, we are going to elevate our voice as the demand side of that equation. But what are we up against? And Ken alluded to this. The labor force participation rate in this country has been declining since about the year 2000. And in early 2016, we were not quite at 63% of able-bodied working age adults who were engaged in the workforce. Not quite 63%. Now, some of those are the stay-at-home moms. Some of them are caregivers. Some of them have the luxury of not working for financial reasons. Others aren't motivated. And that's what we're trying to think about. How do we instill motivation in that sense of purpose through being a producer in the system and not just a user in the system? So we've partnered with Ford Next Generation Learning Program through the Ford Foundation. This is more than just manufacturing, but this program that we are working with in Greater Clark County schools is working to try to give young people direction. A lot of young people will say that their thoughts about their high school education were that they walked out with two options. They could go to college or they could go to work at McDonald's. And there was really not a lot in between. But we all know there's many, many options. How do we get young people to see those different options? The concept around Ford Next Generation Learning is to have all high school students by 10th grade, basically what some of us did in college, declare a major. I'm interested in health sciences. I'm interested in advanced manufacturing and logistics. I may be interested in skilled trades because I like to work with my hands. How do we get them to engage in learning the curriculum that they need to graduate in that discipline that they have somewhat of a choice over, and give them the opportunity to do that? So that's the concept behind the Ford Next Generation Learning. In Greater Clark County schools, we have 3 high schools, New Washington, Charlestown, and Jeffersonville High School, which are all engaging in this program. Jeffersonville High School is the largest high school in the Louisville metro area. So while this is something that's taken place in Indiana, from an employment perspective in Kentucky, we are truly a regional resource in terms of workforce. This is a way to elevate the way that the workforce development system in our entire region. So we're also recognized that JCPS is working on Ford Next Generation Learning, and we are now starting some crossover between the 2 school systems to understand what's going on and to learn from best practices. So you'll hear more about that as both of the school systems move forward in that. At One Southern Indiana, we've also taken the opportunity to focus on manufacturing. We've got a couple of things that we're enrolling to make this happen. We are taking advantage of the fact that we have a robust Metro Manufacturing Alliance, and Mark Barter's here, who's on our advisory council for that. We have about 80 manufacturers from Shelbyville, Kentucky to Scottsburg, Indiana, who are meeting regularly to talk about those things that manufacturers are facing, and most of the small to mid-sized manufacturers. Workforce and talent is always the #1 conversation that we have with that group. So we participated in National Manufacturing Day, which actually we spread it out to a week. We had 982 high school students from throughout Southern Indiana visit 26 manufacturers. 26 manufacturers had visits from 982 students on like 86 different tours. It was a logistical exercise just to make that happen. That was much more than a day out of work, or excuse me, a day out of school. These kids weren't just taking a field trip. They had been working with their teachers, they had been understanding, and their eyes were being opened to what that career in manufacturing could look like. And it's not the dirty work that manufacturing has a reputation of having. I think about, I'm going to show my age here, I think of manufacturing, I think of the movie Flashdance. And no, I'm not talking about the dancing scenes, I'm talking about what was her day job. She was a steel worker. And all you wanted to do was go, oh gosh, please let her get out of that environment. Manufacturing is not like that today. And so as we recognize that children may not have seen the inside of a manufacturing operation, or many of their parents have not seen the inside of a manufacturing operation, or most of their teachers and counselors have not seen the inside of a manufacturing plant, we need to start opening their eyes and giving them that real experience. In addition to that, Region 10, which is our region of the state, has received a Department of Workforce Development grant from the state of Indiana for a program that we call Skills Up. So building upon what we're already doing with manufacturing, the Skills Up grant is going to allow us to put manufacturing equipment in 10 area high schools, going back to that vocational education piece, but manufacturing equipment in 10 area high schools. Within the next 18 months, we are to graduate 125 students with MCCS certifications, it's an entry-level manufacturing certification, as well as 75 adults. So again, focusing on providing that training once that interest is there is the piece of what we're doing. And at One Southern Indiana, we are excited to be coordinating a lot of these different efforts that are taking place and working on how manufacturing, but then growing that to the other sectors, whether it be healthcare or some of the others that would be of importance. So One Southern Indiana could do what we do and we could be the best at doing what we do, and if we stay in our own little silo and don't really focus on what else is going on out there, are we going to be moving the needle? I don't think so. So what we're also talking about is collective impact. How do organizations like One Southern Indiana and GLI and Junior Achievement and all of the other groups that are here and working today, how do we start to combine our efforts and have conversations that are going to talk about what's going to really move us forward in a coordinated effort? And while no nonprofit or institution tries to work in a vacuum and just thinks about what's going on, what happens when we don't sit at the table, we don't have these regional conversations, is that unintended consequence of not being able to really maximize the effort. And so that's what I want to leave you with today. I know we're going to open it up to questions and answers, but at the same time, what is it that we're all doing? How do we participate so that we are truly leaving it better than we found it, both from an employment standpoint, but also for those children and young workers who are going to be the ones that are going to be our workforce of tomorrow. So that's the development side. Thank you. Kevin, you want to...
We're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to kick this off a little bit. And let me ask, we talked some about how the people in this room as employers can contribute to helping with building the flow of students and others to become trained in fields like advanced manufacturing. But for I as an employer, what is it that I can do to really contribute to attract people from the outside and make sure that I contribute as well to the process of keeping our workforce here in Louisville?
Well, I'll start from the standpoint of employment engagement. Going back to the idea, and I had a room full of counselors and high school teachers, and I asked them, how many of you guys have ever been in an operation, or I looked at the room, and first of all, there was one male and about 15 females. And most of the females were younger than I am. I'll let you guess how old that is. And I asked the question, how many of you all ever been in a manufacturing operation? And the one male and a female, 2 people out of 16, raised their hands. And her husband worked in a manufacturing operation and he was in a second career. And I thought to myself, how can we not, we need the business people in the schools talking about what that work experience is really like. So when a 6th grade teacher is teaching my kid fractions, how does that relate to the workforce? Chances are her teacher doesn't know, but somebody on the shop floor does. Or how does understanding why I'm dissecting that frog, how does that make sense in the real hospital setting? Well, maybe we'll have somebody come in and talk about it. And I think that's to me, kind of the uniqueness of the Ford Next Generation Learning model is it takes and enforces that type of collaboration between the employers and the school systems so that everybody is on the same page.
I might attack it slightly differently from a different direction. The largest group in the workforce now are millennials, and not a lot of millennials in the room today. As an employer, it is critical to understand the mindset of the millennial and to provide, and for retention purposes, to provide an employment experience for them, which is what they're seeking. An employment experience is along with a paycheck that allows them to advance their careers in a thoughtful way. The workforce is different. My office is now full of millennials. We've hired lots of folks that are young, and I've had to learn that. They really do respond differently. So one thing that can be done is to really go read a book, go to a seminar, understand the mindset of your workforce, which is different than the mindset of most of, at least my generation.
Thank you. Mike Brumley is my name. Trades. We don't have any training in Jefferson County. I know they have it in Southern Indiana. How do people in high school, young people who want to learn a trade, learn it in Jefferson County? Where do they go?
Well, you point out a real challenge. What Ford Next Generation Learning does, it's a trade, not necessarily a shop class of manual or auto mechanics, which are great classes and learned a lot about in those classes. The Next Generation Learning, by putting, which we're implementing also in Jefferson County, in parallel to what's going on across the river in Clark County, puts those kids into a trade. When they are in the schools, they're literally reorganized in the schools, so all of their classes are clustered together down one hall of the school. It's experiential learning so that when they're talking in math class, if they happen to be in, let's say, business services, they're doing business problems that they would be solving. They're guest lecturers, if you will, or guests into the classrooms are coming from that sector. If they do externships, the teachers do externships, they're doing it into that. The shadowing that they do is into that sector. It's everything they can do to give them a real experience, a real world experience in the field that they have chosen. And what you want to do in next generation learning, the key, is make sure that you have more than one choice in each school. Because right now the problem is if you happen to go to a school that has medical and you're not interested in medical, you just go into the general class and you don't get any kind of trade learning.
I don't have anything to add, so what the different schools are able to do. What we've gotten away from, I believe, is having, kids are so involved in sports and all of the clubs and stuff, which is great. But if you go out to some of our more rural area high schools, those kids grew up on a farm. They're better equipped, they understand working with their hands and what to do, what that could create for them. And what they don't recognize necessarily is what they have learned through that process. So as we look at our different school districts, we have a very rural school district that is probably very interested in that construction skill trade side of it.
Hi, Harriet Freelander. I have been given to understand that much of the growth in Louisville is from immigrant and refugee populations. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I know that a lot of that work falls to the nonprofits. How does business get involved in integrating and using those people who may have transferable skills into our workforce?
Great question. The truth is that all of the growth, net growth in the last 5 years anyway, has come from immigration. We haven't had enough babies. What we haven't had is immigration, but all the net immigration has been foreign-born. So it's very, very important to embrace our foreign-born population. And that's what this Global Louisville is all about. In December, I think it's 12th or 10th, it's at the end of December, we'll be rolling that out along with the mayor's office, and that's about making it a welcoming community. And what can businesses do to get involved? Again, coming back to your HR departments, a lot of times it's very hard to translate the skills that are learned in another country into skills that may be the same skill, but the language is different in how they're described. Making the effort to get involved with translating those skills sets so you can employ people is important. You could be a sponsor for an immigrant. You give them a chance is where I would start. We're just beginning, really just beginning in a strategic way to take advantage of the fact that we are an attractive place for certain immigrant groups. Right now here, the largest immigrant group is Mexican, but right after that are Cubans. It's, I think, we're the 4th highest concentration of Cubans outside of Cuba for a major city. That's big. We have a lot of Indians, foreign-born Indian population is very large here. The Vietnamese population is very large here. And we're just understanding now how we need to culturally embrace those and use those groups to help recruit additional qualified people to move to our community.
I see several folks in the room from the Kentucky Indian Exchange. The program that we are working on that's similar yet not quite the same is Where Opportunity Knocks, and that's KNOX. That's bringing veterans who are looking for job opportunities into this area. So that too is building a culture and helping folks understand that if you were an artillery commander out in the Army and you kind of want to come work at one of our employers here, chances are they're not hiring for an artillery commander. So how do we build a culture that understands and translates and recognizes those skill sets, which may not be the things that they're used to talking about in the normal lingo?
Ready? Henry Mazur, thanks for being here and for your leadership. Question for Kent. Comparing our growth to our peer cities that are way ahead of us, could you talk about tax structure difference and what you would like to see our legislature pass to make Louisville more competitive?
Yeah, we are at a unique disadvantage with the tax structure that we have in Kentucky. It's an income-based tax structure. The states around us, like Tennessee in particular, we have consumption-based tax, sales taxes, and other kind of value-added taxes. What the motivation is, I mean, if you really cut back to it, and you've heard discussion on the radio just this morning with the governor talking about being open to eliminating income tax, executives and the people that make decisions around where to locate and expand businesses are very influential in the process. Turns out they don't like to pay taxes, or at least exorbitant amounts of taxes. Imagine that. The reason that Hospital Corp of America is so large in Nashville, and Nashville is actually a medical capital for the country, has a lot to do with the fact that when the hospital division spun out of Humana, the tax structure and how it affected their senior executives led them to make decisions to relocate and set up shop in Nashville, and they've grown very well down there. Our loss, so that's a change. The governor has been very clear about wanting to take on tax reform. He's been hedging his bets a little bit lately just on the timing, because they have only a very short session, 30 days to work on it. It is a very complicated issue, but he has been crystal clear that he wants to go after tax reform. I know at GLI we have a tax reform committee that we formed up weeks ago that's meeting with lots of business leaders, maybe some in the room, that are coming together to try to formulate what we think is important. I want to point out one really important thing so pay attention to this, and you may need to weigh in on this. When things like tax reform, which are huge and fundamental, structural in the Commonwealth come into play, all kinds of things start moving. And what you can see is a gravitation of power out of the cities into the rural areas. You've seen it in other states. And when the income formulas are being decided, depending on how they fall down, that could be good for Louisville or it could be bad for Louisville. There's lots of formulas that we have here, like the road funds, which are set up to benefit rural areas, even though there's way, way more traffic and potholes in the urban areas. So those are the kind of things we have to pay a lot of attention to. That's the things that our tax reform committee will be paying attention to. We'll be looking to other states, like Indiana has done a great job up there, and looking how they did it. But that is one of the most important things in getting us on the track to being a successful state. Thanks, Ed.
Okay, next question. My name is Craig Sherman.
I'm not joining.
I thought this was going to be a forum that we were going to make the general announcement. And say, I'm doing it.
I would love to.
First of all, I'd like to say I applaud your efforts in doing what you're doing. And in Rotary, we have what we call the Unsung Hero Program. And I was amazed, one of the components, and that's the scholarships, how many of the students are leaving our area to go to other schools. That's one of the reasons why we have matching grants go to U of L, Bellarmine, and so forth. And I'm thinking, one of the challenges you have is we're losing a lot of the best and the brightest and they're going on to their areas, because once they go to the other schools, they either find jobs or they find a significant other and they stay there. And I'm just thinking that should be another thrust. The question was originally, getting involved in Rotary, but I'd like to say to you, about recognizing the best and the brightest. Henry Heiser one time hired you, and he brought you here. And I remember how he was so excited about this Kent Oiler. I got to know him, and I appreciate your energies on our whole community's behalf.
That's the ultimate.
Thank you, Craig. I want to say that I talked a lot about talent attraction. Wendy did talk more about the retention and the local workforce that's already here. Again, the messaging is very similar. If people are coming from outside, they're qualified and educated, and moving here, the people that are already here look to the left and look to the right of the folks that came from outside and say, well, what are they seeing that I'm not? They may know it, but there is a natural curiosity to leave. No, literally this morning, my daughter announced that she got a job offer out of Austin. Great. So I may lose her for a couple of years and try to get her back after that. There is that wanderlust that young people have and want to go, especially bright, college-educated people. One of the things we are going to do that is not done, which is surprising as heck to me, we do not, in any strategic way, go to our top colleges and universities, UK, even U of L here, Western, Indiana, and meet specifically with their top 10% students that are in the fields that we need, like STEM fields, engineering fields. We need to get in front of those kids and make sure that when they graduate from UK or IU, the local's on the radar screen, and it's not just Nashville and Atlanta and Chicago. If they're going to go to a city, come to our city. We need you. Thanks.
And some of us do come back. It took almost 20 years. Some of us do grow up here and come back.
All right, well, we're at our time. George, come up afterwards and you can ask your question up front, since we're at our time, if that's okay.
George, where'd you get that hat?
Please give a round of applause to our guests.
Okay, the question is,
George, come up after here so you can ask him in
the question
person.
is, do we still have a welfare program? And we need to change that to a talent development program. Let's be sensible.
Thank you, George. All right, folks, next week, we're back in the Cochran Room, and you're not going to want to miss this. This is going to be an interesting meeting. Jeannie Bishop will share her 22-year journey to forgive the man who killed her sister, brother-in-law, and their unborn child. It's chronicled in a book called Change of Heart, Mercy and Making Peace with My Sister's Killer. If there's ever been a time to be thinking about compassion and forgiveness, it's now. So I hope you'll join us. We'll also be announcing the candidates for our officers and directors for 2017-18. So I hope you'll be here with us. So the Rock and Rotary Band is going to take us away with